Hi, I'm here with Jimmy to talk about Black History Month. Um, Jimmy, can you start by telling me what your ethnicity is and your heritage and a bit about yourself?
Okay, my name is Bbaale, and I am originally from Uganda. Um I live in Inverness. However, my background and heritage involves some Rwanda is blood, and Ugandan. So both of my parents are not from Uganda. Some are from Rwanda, and I moved to the UK coming to 10 years ago as a student.
That's really interesting. So how does that like mix of cultures and mix of heritage you just explained, how does that impact your identity, or does it have any influence on your sense of being?
Uh, the way it influences me is quite comes natural because the Rwanda and the Uganda, they're all Bantu speaking people, and therefore there's not that much of a difference. However, it kind of gives me an opportunity to speak languages from both ends of the family and the languages around it. So we try about six languages that I can play around. But it hasn't really affected me. There's a bit of history on it that some tribes, I think you heard about the Rwandan genocide. Um, However, that hasn't affected me as a person because at the time I was very young, and also it only affected much of my parents that they had to immigrate to a different country. But other than that, there isn't much.
Yeah, I can imagine that was a big kind of thing. So you talked about immigration and what is it like living in the UK and all the other places that you've lived in? Like, how does that feel?
Well, it feels at first when I moved over, I was 19 years of age, and it was kind of strange uh, moving into a different country, a different culture, and having moved to Paisley as my first place of stay in the UK. It had its own challenges. However, I found my feet not very fast, but with the help of people around me and people I met along the way, it it became normal and made the UK my new home. Um, Changing culture, there was a bit of issues here and there, but you get used to it and you adapt as time goes on. So there wasn't really anything I could do about it. I just rolled on and learned as time went on.
Yeah. And so returning to the main topic of our main reason for our conversation, Black History Month, what does Black History Month mean to you?
So to me, it honors Black people, and it kind of retrieves the history that uh, Black people have contributed to this nation and this world as a whole. And it kind of gives us an opportunity to learn about it and possibly to teach to our children and the forthcoming generations. And it also honors those that have done great for this country and uh, the world in general, uh, more so Black people, and also those who are not Black that have paid, um, have done something, either, let's say, fighting to stop slavery or helping people or freeing people. I think that's what it means to me.
That's really interesting what you just said, that like the kind of neutral, it's for everyone, and it's does does that mean that when you think about Black History Month, you think about it as an experience for everyone to learn in, or
Yes, I see it as an experience for everyone to learn, and it's not just for Black people, and shouldn't be just Black people praised for it. It should be even people that made different amendments to support either stopping of slavery, or people who paid money, or who gave up their slaves, or people who today do lead charities that help Black people. I think all that should be involved in Black History Month, and that's what I see. That's how I see it.
That's really interesting. So which Black person, if you had to pick one or maybe two, inspires you?
The Chancellor for Elliott Ward University, Sir Jeff Palmer, really inspires me. He's a very, very clever man, a man that is filled with wisdom, and I like how he does his things, and the fact that he works day and night to kind of teach the future generation of what was in the past, what happened, especially kind of making history kind of come right, rather than the few mistakes and bits and bobs that have been missed in history. He's trying to put clarity to them. So he inspires me quite a lot. And the fact that he's a chancellor, that also inspires me.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. I liked what you said about history. So for you, does that mean that getting history right is an important part of this month, or as part of perhaps potentially wider Black people's? Is it their thing that they need to do, that they need to help correct history or fill in the blanks almost?
Absolutely. Getting history right means the future, or the generations to come, will understand the truth. And rather than praising people for what they have not achieved, or for what they brush on their carpets, I think getting history right should be part of Black History Month. And also we should praise people that are actually doing it, who are investing their time into it. So I think it is an important part of our history.
I love the way that you kind of bring the modernity of Black History Month and the sort of historicness of Black History Month together in what you've just said. So thank you. I already alluded a little bit to your heritage and your interesting backstory outside of university life, having served in the army and been deployed to places such as Afghanistan. Can you tell me a little bit about how that experience happened and what influence it had on you?
Yeah, so after my first degree at University of West of Scotland, I joined the British Army and took on a role in the offices for a start. And it was a challenge to get in, but with the grace of God, I managed to get in, and a bit of hard work. It has been, and it is, a good experience, and it's something that I would encourage any young man and woman who has the ability and feels they've got the potential to do it, to give it a chance. It's an excellent experience. You get an opportunity to travel the world and do great things, do things that other people see as challenges, but when you give yourself that opportunity to challenge yourself and go out and do them. So the army gave me that opportunity. I have served coming to 5 years, and I have been to Afghanistan. I was on the very last flight that came back from Afghanistan of recent in 2021. That was before I decided to go back to university.
So you're back to university, and what's that change been like? And is army life very different to university life, or does it prepare you for university life?
It is different. You get an opportunity to study and get qualifications within the army, but they are different qualifications. Some of them are recognized by the civilian employers, others are not. So I had an opportunity to do a diploma in business administration while I was there, and it kind of kept me in an academic environment. However, it is very different. The training is different. You go to different places, you do things completely different from education. So coming back to further education, especially to higher education, it is challenging. And the amount of essays that come with it, if you've not been writing essays in the last 4 years, it becomes harder and harder.
And so thinking about the fact that you've lived such a what one might call a diverse life, and you've lived in like loads of different spaces, met lots of probably been around lots of different people from different cultures and different countries. Have you ever faced discrimination or prejudice due to your ethnicity or cultural heritage?
Yes. However, it hasn't been a direct to my face sometimes. It hasn't been like it's been targeted exactly to put me down. But it has been there. I don't know whether you want some examples of that, but
share some. Yeah.
So clearly, when you live in a place coming to 10 years, you're going to meet some bad eggs, but there is a lot of good people. And one of the challenges that I've made is the ability to kind of break into some circles. For example, if you wanted to do something, and it requires a certain level of preparation, but that preparation has not been done to you. Let's say you've not been prepared or taught what it needs for you to get there. I see that as discrimination. So, however, it's not just done to me; it is done to people who are born here too, and people who come from different areas of the country. Just they lack that bit of exposure and kind of. So it's discrimination, but it's not just targeted to me straight. It's you realize that it's harder to get into some things unless you're prepared to get into it, and you can only be prepared to get into it if you've met people of the same either background or same culture as you to prepare you for that kind of opportunity. Does that make any sense?
No, that makes perfect sense. I think that is a very interesting thing to say, that it like the discrimination is almost, I guess, like it's difficult to put your finger on it to say exactly what it is. And I guess that's recently been sort of termed almost as a microaggression. People talk about it as microaggressions because you're not sure if it's exactly directed at you, but also it's the culture in which you're surrounded by. So I thought that was really interesting. Do you think things have changed in so talking about the fact that you talked about being here for 10 years and having like met lots of different people, do you think things have changed, or do you think they stayed the same?
Yeah, of course, things have changed. If things weren't different, I wouldn't be where I am. Or see other people getting into big positions like our chancellor right now at our university, or things have changed. Yes, things have changed. In 2009, there's a course I wanted to do. However, that course was funded by NHS, and I could not get into that course at the time as an international student. However, today, as we are talking, because of different complaints and different people standing up and saying that's not right, regardless, or if you can pay now, you can always go and do certain courses in the university, which is great. So they always leave some positions for international students, regardless of the numbers they need. So I see that as a change. So things have changed.
Yeah, that's really interesting what you're saying about education and the allowances for international students, because I suppose that's also a uniqueness that you have, in the sense that you've served in the British Army and then you've lived life as an international student at university. And so does that, in going back to what I was asking earlier about identity, do those two identities ever come into conflict with each other, or do you find that they balance each other out?
My African identity and being British, it it, it, sometimes it crosses, but you try your level best to balance it. For example, as as we live here longer, you tend to pick up the culture and the habits and the way of living and the way of doing things. Um, of course, after serving, you become different, like with your timekeeping, with other things, and some things become different from the way you used to do them. Uh, but you try and manage it. You try and balance it. You try to balance the way you live with your community and also going back to your African community within the country. You try and balance it and live on.
Yeah, I can imagine. So just to wrap up and returning to our theme of Black History Month, you talked a lot about, like I said, the modernity and the historic nature of Black History Month. But what do you think the future conversations hold for the future holds for those sort of conversations? Do you think it's positive? What would you like to see included more in Black History Month?
I think things like the exact history, what really happened, should be put right. A lot of philosophers, a lot of writers and researchers who are interested in history should go out also be interested in Black history and find the truth, what really happened and what was swept under the carpets should be brought out. And also should be pushed more into the primary and secondary school curriculums to give an opportunity to any student who's interested in our history to kind of study it. And also, opportunities should be given to to minorities, I don't like to use that word, but to other numbers who are smaller to get into decision-making positions. I think there's a change. I think we can see that happening. It's not like the way it used to be. We see a lot of more people of our color in decision-making positions, but it should be pushed a bit more. They should also, especially in internship places, offering places for young children. If you don't put enough numbers at the very bottom, in the next 10 years, you won't see people of that color in that position. Does that make any sense? So if we have 10 Black kids into an internship, there's chances that 3 of them will make it the management positions in the next 10 years. But if you only take one, the chances that that person will get wasted away by natural wastage are more than taking in on 5.
Yes, no, I completely understand. And that's quite a positive thing to end on, I suppose. So thank you, Jimmy, for speaking to me today. And I wish you the best of luck with your degree.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And you too.
Thank you.